deeper lying fears, core wounds. I talk about that in some of my other videos, which are not necessarily something you are very aware of on a daily basis. There are, however, also fears that you are aware of on a daily basis, that you run into, that you struggle with. And I want to address two of them today that seem so alike, but definitely are different in their core, which is why it's interesting to talk about it. These two fears are the fear of making mistakes and the fear of doing things wrong. And again, they might seem or sound like the same thing, but they are not. So let's dive into both. First off, the fear of making mistakes. Pretty much every fearful avoidant is really struggling with this one. And it could be anything. Making mistakes in relationships, in friendships, in your work, saying something that would hurt somebody else, doing something that would hurt somebody else. A lot of fearful avoidants grow up with the belief, or kind of adopt the belief, that they cannot make mistakes. They are absolutely forbidden to make mistakes, and it is very bad to make mistakes, which is not true, because making mistakes is so human. But that is, I think, something you might be able to see for other people. Other people are allowed to make mistakes, but I am such a bad person, I cannot make mistakes. Which again is not true. You are human just like everybody else. You are not that special. And you can make mistakes like everybody else. But the thing is, with making mistakes versus the fear of doing things wrong, is that with the fear of making mistakes, you are fearful of the consequences. So that could be somebody getting really angry at you. That could be you being rejected, you being abandoned. But mostly the negative impact that you can have on other people. So hurting them, and people just lashing out at you. So that is a fear of making mistakes, whereas the fear of doing something wrong is different, in the sense that you are mostly afraid of being found dumb or stupid or incapable. And that's where these two differ, you see. The first, making mistakes, is like, when I make a mistake, everything will fall apart. I will end up alone. Everything will go wrong. And I will end up hurting others because I'm a bad person. So I'm not allowed to make mistakes. I have to hold myself back. I have to keep myself in check. I cannot make mistakes, which leads to hiding, to the shame spiral. And then you have the fear of doing things wrong, and that has more to do with the self-identity part of being afraid that other people will find you dumb, will judge you for it, will look down upon you, which definitely also comes from upbringing, from your parents doing that to other people, talking about other people in a certain way, but also laughing at you when you say something that isn't correct, that isn't right. It usually stems from a fear of being judged by others, and so you have to do things in a correct way. You have to know everything. You have to do everything right, whatever right is, because there are so many beautiful cultures. There are so many ways to do things in this world. So there isn't a right or a wrong way, but a lot of fearful avoidants are brought up with this idea that you have to do it in a certain way, or otherwise it's wrong or weird or dumb or any type of judgmental way to describe it. And so that leads to affirming the core wound, I don't belong. I'm weird, I'm different. So if you do something wrong, if you say the wrong thing, if you act in a wrong way, then you are out of the herd. You are not part of the herd. You don't belong. So you see how these two kind of reaffirm different core beliefs. The fear of making mistakes reaffirms I am a bad person, because you will make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. That is such a human thing, and it's such an important part of learning and growing. And what always kind of pains me in this is that children, out of all the phases in life, are the need to know that they can make mistakes the most, because they are learning, they are growing. Your brain as a child was not developed in a way that was probably expected or wanted by your parents. So you weren't able to control yourselves. Those tantrums when you were a toddler wasn't something you could control, because if you could, you would have. Children don't want to be bad, don't want to be difficult. So they never are. They are never bad or difficult. I do not believe that that is a thing. They just need guidance, and they need help, and they need love, and not judgment for making mistakes. So you grew up with this idea that I am not allowed to make mistakes. When I make a mistake, somebody gets really angry, which probably means I hurt somebody. I am a bad person. I can hurt other people by making mistakes. And I mean, that is true. You know, you can sometimes do something that hurts another person, but guess what? Even that is okay. You do not have to exist in this little glass box where you never ever hurt anybody, where you never ever do anything wrong. When you have the best of intentions, you take responsibility for your own behavior, you are willing to say sorry, you will still hurt other people, but it will be okay. You will learn through that. And as a fearful avoidant, growing up with this attachment style, you will notice that as you start healing, the gifts of having been a fearful avoidant will come out naturally. And one of those is empathy. You are very, very capable of seeing what another person needs, or whatever your actions do with somebody else. And so you are very much able and capable of saying sorry, of taking responsibility, of really understanding that person's point of view. But what is keeping you from that right now is that fear of making mistakes. You are just convinced that you are not allowed to make mistakes. And when you've healed, you'll see that you will own the fact that you will make mistakes, and that that is okay, that you are still a good person, that you are still very worthy of love and attention and kindness. And so because of that, you will be able to be present with somebody else's pain, even if you have caused that. And that is true growth. That is true love. And that is what you are very much capable of. And then when it comes to the fear of doing things wrong, as you heal, you will notice that there is not one way to do things that is right or that is wrong. Sometimes you will say the right thing. Sometimes you will say something that other people just don't understand. And that's okay. Not everybody has to understand you. You don't have to seem smart in everybody's eyes. What other people think of you is not your responsibility. It is not your responsibility to manage and control what other people think of you. For a lot of fearful avoidance, that's kind of a new concept. Do I not have to adjust? Do I not have to make sure that everybody likes me? Do I not have to make sure that everybody thinks I'm amazing and that they kind of look up to me to be safe? No, you really don't. You really don't. There could be people that think you're dumb. There could be people that think you're genius. At the same time, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what other people think of you. That's such a cliche thing. But it's true. And for a fearful avoidant, it's so freeing to start to believe that and see that it really doesn't matter. You can say dumb things and still be super smart. You can do weird things and still be super normal. The most important thing is to know that we are all human. We all make mistakes. We all do things wrong. But you are still a good person when you make mistakes, and you still belong when you do something wrong. So those are the two core wounds. that are underlying this and that kind of perpetuate this belief and also this behavior. Because if you believe that you make a lot of mistakes and that you are a bad person, you are actually more likely to act in that way. There's a lot of science behind this. I will go into that in a later video maybe. But when you believe that you do things wrong all the time, you are actually more likely to do things wrong, whatever that may mean. So believing that you are a good person, believing that you are worthy and that you belong is something that I just wish for you, because that you deserve that, and that will give you so much freedom, and it will also help you to be able to connect to other people without fear. So this is the difference between making mistakes and doing things wrong, and something that we as fearful avoidants really run into every single day, don't we? I mean, all day long we have the possibility of being seen and speaking, saying things, doing things, and with that comes the possibility of making mistakes and doing things wrong. So when you have these fears, you tend to hide, you tend to not do things, hold back, and that is just such a shame, because the world needs you. The world needs you. You are so valuable, way more valuable than you believe right now. And so addressing these core wounds and healing these core wounds will give you so much freedom, which is something we do in the online program Healed and Happy, which is open right now. You can look in the link in the description below to read more. But we address all these core wounds so that even on a daily basis, you will notice that you just feel so much more at ease, so much more relaxed, so much more happy, and just being able to enjoy the moment instead of controlling what everybody thinks of you, controlling yourself, trying to hold back and not do anything wrong, not make mistakes. That's a very high stress state to be in. And a lot of fearful avoidants are in a state of stress quite constantly. These two definitely very much contribute to that. So when you release this, when you heal this, you will notice so much more freedom and so much more relaxation. And that is something I wish for you so much. So let me know in the comments below whether this was valuable to you, whether you already knew the difference between these two, whether you were aware of it. And as always, I am so happy you are here, and I will see you in the next one.